Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. I just had an emergency camera situation, so I just had to do some real fast thinking in the last 20 seconds. uh, Good morning. It's so good to see you all. Happy to be here. Before I get into my main talk this morning, I just need to acknowledge that June 17, Science of Mind lost one extremely valuable teacher, Dr. Reverend Arlene Bump. And I'm just going to read a brief statement that I wrote regarding that. And I am not going to bore you here with the hopes and dreams of my long past youth or the twisted tale thereby spawned. Suffice it that you know I spent the first quarter century of my life in Los Angeles, which was the crucible of Science of Mind, but only found the teaching here in South Florida after abandoning a secure financial career for a reckless journey into an undefined future. A path I could never have imagined led me doubtful and suspicious to a Christmas Eve candlelighting ceremony in Fort Lauderdale in the tender embrace of Dr. Arlene Bump. The opportunities that followed have checked off so many of those early boxes of desire. Any left unfulfilled are of no consequence or simply yet to be revealed. Although in my case she did not do it alone, Fort Lauderdale being graced with a litany of outstanding teachers, I credit Arlene with being that bump in my road that shook loose the scales from my eyes, allowing me to see the power of spirit within. Knowing I am one of many, I am eternally grateful. So there will be a celebration of life in Fort Lauderdale, but the time and date have yet to be determined. Okay, Passing Shadows and Magic Lanterns. Where do these titles come from? I wish I knew. Spirit, I guess. So, as Dr. Arlene often taught us, never let a title interrupt a good talk, so go ahead and take it for what it's worth. Chapter 1. Recently, flipping through some YouTube videos, I came across Jackson Browne singing a song about rediscovering some old photographs. The song was Fountain of Sorrow, and the memories they evoked. It triggered memories of my own photographs that captured moments of time in my life. The wild, unkempt hair of my youth, the women who changed the trajectory of my journey, places I have lived, visited, learned, and expanded as a human being. Sadly, many of those images may be lost forever outside the impression burned into my memory. Or is it really sad that those images are lost? The photographs you see are locked in time. My memories, however, are subject to reexamination, selective failure, alteration either by choice or circumstance. Spirit employs our memories with all their strengths and weaknesses to create our unconscious present. We employ spirit to create our conscious present by selecting memories to build from and releasing any energy associated with memories that no longer serve us. Introducing the song, Browne stated that while looking at the photographs in question, his memories of the subject had softened over time, but when he encountered that person again a few years later, his former reality reemerged, and he was glad they were no longer together. He too had experienced selective memory related to the frozen images, but he got a good song out of it. Every conversation is like a photograph. There's a conversation that took place, and there's the conversation we remember. And each conversation has the added challenge of having to be remembered by at least two different people Two totally different perspectives and two totally different relationships with the common consciousness. The photograph evokes memories of a time and place, perhaps linked by sounds and smells and even taste. Each conversation is likewise linked to these various senses. Everyone in the conversation is likewise influenced by their own experiences, come into the conversation affecting what they take from the conversation. Dr. Holmes writes in the textbook, Chapter 2, retake. Memory is the result of conscious thought. Memory of itself is an unconscious operation of what was once a conscious thought. This is one of the most important conclusions which the mind of man has ever made, Holmes writes. By changing his thought, he could remold his affairs, and by right thinking, he could bring new conditions into his life. Tremendous. He actually wrote that. Tremendous. That's how important this was. Simply put, we have an experience. Our mind has a conscious thought, processes the experience, assigns a judgment to the experience, forms an opinion around the experience, and snaps a mental photograph documenting the experience. We lock away that photograph along with all the energy and emotion surrounding it and move on with our lives. Time works its magic, and our memories begin editing our photographs. Some of them fade away with elements disappearing. The energy once assigned to the accompanying emotions is drained away, no longer relevant, no longer living rent-free in our minds. Others remain crisp and sharp, still bringing an instant smile or unexpected tears. Still other memories Photoshop themselves into something they never were, taking on a life of their own with no real anchorage in reality then or now. More importantly, not everyone is in your photograph. Other people who are in the same room at the same time will have their own memory photograph, and you are not in it. Have you ever heard stories of someone whose whole adult life was anchored in some belief that stemmed from an event in their youth with a schoolmate or some authority figure who, when confronted about it years later, had a completely different interpretation or no recollection of the event at all? Holmes is telling us that we can use this fluid nature of memory to rewrite our story, not deny our past or misrepresent it, but by disconnecting from it. I can see a picture of a former partner and resurrect all the pain and suffering of our eventual ending, or I can see the lovely woman that she was and remember all the fun and adventure we shared in the before times. Both sides of the picture exist, but I get to choose which one I energize, which one my heart embraces today. And yes, it has been a journey wherein spirit played no small part. An endless cascade of events, a parade of random relationships, all manifestations of spirit unfolding ceaselessly behind my back, unbeknownst to me that some small kernel of belief, hope, or determination was being acted upon by a force I didn't know existed. Holmes is asking, why leave it up to chance? The power to rewrite our story is ours to use. Turn the page. Open a new chapter beginning right here with a blank sheet of paper. chapter 3. From 1 Corinthians, verse 15, Paul writes, "Moreover, brethren, I declare unto you the gospel which I preached unto you, which also ye have received, and wherein ye stand, by which also ye are saved, if ye keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless you have believed in vain. For I delivered unto you of all that which I also received, how that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the Scriptures, and that he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12. After that he was seen of above 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep." Modern Christianity has employed this verse to anoint the teacher Jesus of Nazareth with special status, setting him apart, assigning him his own parking space, members-only privileges, and his own box at the opera of your life. I offer for your amusement and consideration a somewhat different interpretation. You see, and let's just keep this between ourselves, Christ is not and never was the name of the teacher from Nazareth. Christ is the idea of the power that unifies each and every one of us with the infinite that is Spirit. Jesus of Nazareth was, by all accounts, about 99.99% fully unified with his Christ nature. He walked the walk. People were drawn to him not because he was special, but because he empowered them. He made them feel good about themselves because he showed them they too could lift themselves out of whatever picture they saw themselves burned into and create a totally new image. Paul was not saying a man was resurrected. Paul was telling us that an idea, this idea that Jesus had revealed in his teaching, the spiritual truth of how the universe works, cannot be buried in a cave and covered over with a rock and remain hidden for all time. No, such an idea, this spiritual truth transposes physical limitations and reveals itself to everyone, the most devout, those willing to grow, and even those who choose to sleep or deny their own power. And of that latter group, who can blame them? With power comes responsibility. Responsibility requires making choices and accepting the consequences. Good choices require honest inquiry, accumulation of facts, and long-range examinations of outcomes. In a word, it's work. It is so much easier to just let someone else tell us what to think, believe, and do. Let someone else define what the common consciousness should look like and lock it down for all time. Just say the approved words, wear the approved clothes, hate the approved infidels de jour. It is so much easier to live in someone else's photograph, erasing any of your own. Erase any memories of hope, ambition, freedom, or joy. Chapter 4. One person making all the decisions is very efficient, but it seldom results in the best outcome for the greatest number of people. Representative government is clunky, sloppy, and inefficient, but when done right, produces results that hurt the fewest number of people. A world where everyone is empowered to write and rewrite their own story is clunky, sloppy, and inefficient. But when done with everyone understanding how the universe works, raises everyone's Christ nature and bends our common consciousness closer and closer to 99.99% pure. Now that will be a group photo worth remembering. Thank you.